Today I'm going to be taking a look at the SAT math prep off of GoodNotes 6. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to do 6 problems, and on this SAT math prep they categorize it into easy, medium, and hard, and they have 4 categories given. So heart of algebra, passport to advanced math, problem solving and data analysis, and additional topics in math. So what I'm going to be doing today is I'm going to be doing 2 easy, 2 medium, 2 hard that I pulled at random ahead of time. And they're just going to be random problems that I have not seen. I have not done these problems at all. I have not seen them at all other than just pulling them up. But I have not read through them. So I'm going to solve these, or at least try to solve them. And if I can't solve them, I'm going to use the hints that the program gives to help go through and solve this. So within each category, there's a bunch of different topics. So for the first problem I pulled the first category, topic number 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. For some reason I have hard there, I must have done a... Okay, so our first problem. Okay. So the first question says, if 2x plus 7 is greater than 11, then what is the value of x? So we're just solving inequality here. So let's go ahead and set this up. So I'm going to have 2x plus 7 greater than 11. Solving this inequality, I'm going to subtract 7, just like solving an equation. So 2x is greater than 4. Divide by 2, we get x is greater than 2. So it says if, what is the value of x? X has to be greater than 2. Looks like the second option is x being greater than 2. And we're correct. All right, so that's our first easy one. Our next easy question is, a store has a 20% discount on a pair of shoes with original price of $120. After the discount, the store charges an additional 10% sales tax to the new price. What is the final price of the shoe? So we just have a percentage question here. So store has a 20% discount on a pair of shoes with original price of $120. So the original price was $120. And we're taking 20% off. So 10% of 120 is 12. And then 12 times 2 is going to be 24. So we're taking $24 off because we want to take 20% off. So 10% was 12. 20% then would be multiplied by 2, which is minus 24. So that's going to be 96. Hope my mental math doesn't mess me up here. And I know I could use a calculator, but let's just try to do this mentally. After the discount, the store charges an additional 10% sales tax to the new price. What is the final price of the shoes? So we're charging additional 10% off of this 96. So if I have 96 as my price and I'm being charged 10%, 10% is going to be 960. So I'm adding on 960. So I'm going to have 60 cents. And 9 plus 6 is 5, so 105.60. Does that sound right? 105.60. 120, took 20% off, 12, 24, 96, add on 96.50, 105.60. Looks good. Let's try it out. Okay, correct. So first 2 easy problems, not too difficult. Percentages can be tough if you're not working with them a lot. Next, we're going to move on to mediums. I pulled these off. I pulled them up ahead of time. I hope I'm not out of order, though. I think this was one of the medium questions. It says, a random sample of 40 patients in a hospital revealed that 10 of them have a certain condition. If the hospital has 10,000 patients, how many are likely to have the condition? So we have a sample, and we're trying to extrapolate to the population. So let's see. We have 10 out of 40 have this condition, right? Sample of 40 revealed that 10 of them have a certain condition. So that would be 1/4, which means 25% of the population, or 25% of the sample, meaning 25% of the population then is what the relationship we're trying to make here. So that means we want to take 1/4 of 10,000. So we want to just divide this by 4, multiply it by 1/4, or take 25% of 10,000, which I believe is 2,500. Sounds about right. Correct. All right, cool. Good problem. Nice statistics problem there. Statistics, I feel like, is something that if you don't take a stats class, like, it's really hard to just get through those types of questions. But that wasn't too difficult, but that's something definitely that could give you some trouble if you have not taken a stats class before. Like, it's not common knowledge, a lot of these stats or probability types of questions. Let's check out the next medium difficulty. So determine the number of all pairs of consecutive odd integers greater than 10 whose sum is less than 40. All right, so interesting. And we want to type an answer in this one. Okay, that's different. That's new. Determine the number of all pairs of consecutive odd integers greater than 10 whose sum is less than 40. So I'm not really sure like about just an equation or anything, like an inequality I could set up, but that I think they're looking for some sort of inequality. But I would just problem solve this. Like, I would just start writing down some things and trying to get an understanding of what I'm looking at here. Pairs of consecutive odd integers greater than 10. So what's my first odd integer greater than 10? It's 11. And then my next consecutive odd integer would be 13. That is going to be less than 40, whose sum is less than 40. So then my next pair would be 13 plus 15, still less than 40. I don't really care what the sum actually is. I just want to know whose sum is less than 40. Next would be 15 plus 17. So we're getting close to 40, but not quite. And then 17 plus 19, still less than 40. But then the next one, 19 plus 21, that's going to be exactly 40. 19 plus 21 is 40. So that's not going to count. Determine the number of all pairs of consecutive odd integers greater than 10. So all these numbers are greater than 10. Sum is less than 40. So I think 4 would be my answer. There are 4 consecutive odd integers, pairs of consecutive odd integers. So 4. Let's submit this. Great job. That was correct. All right, that was interesting. That was a cool problem. Nice problem solving. I'm sure there's some equation or inequality we could set up, but problem solving works too. Next, I think I'm still in the medium difficulty. Can't remember. No, I think this is hard now. Yeah, this is a hard question. Okay. The expression for the inequality is -1 less than 4x plus 2 less than 10. What is the value of x? All right, just an inequality. So we have a compound inequality. So let's just set this up. So the way I like to work with compound inequalities like this is I break them off into 2 inequalities. So I'll set -1 is less than 4x plus 2, and then I'll take 4x plus 2 is less than 10. So I just set up 2 inequalities and then just solve both of them, and then we'll meet up at the end here. So I'm going to subtract 2 from this side, get -3 less than 4x, divide by 4. -3 over 4 is less than x. And then I also like to rewrite this with the x on the left side. So x is greater than -3/4. So in this inequality, we have all the x values greater than -3/4. So let's solve the other one. -2. 4x is less than 8. Divide by 4. X is less than 2. Just double check. Okay. So we have a compound inequality, and when you're looking at compound inequalities, you want the intersection between them, because we want an x value that's going to make both inequalities true. So we want the intersection. So I think the best way to do this is just throw them onto a number line, and then we could really get an understanding of what we're looking at here. So we have x is greater than -3/4. And x is less than 2. So greater than -3/4 would be all these values. Less than 2 would be all these values. Where do they overlap? They overlap right here. So the x value has to be between -3/4 and 2. Let's check out our answers. So -3/4 and 2. First one, no. Second one, no. Third one and fourth one, read through all of your answers and make sure that there's nothing a little too tricky here, because if you notice these C and D, if you want to call it that, it says x is between -3/4, greater than -3/4, and less than 2, where option D is x is greater than or equal to -3/4, x is less than or equal to 2. So that's the same numbers, but the inequalities are different. So if we go back to the original problem, it says strictly greater than or strictly less than. So if we look at our answers, we are asking strictly here. So we want the option C, that This one right here. This is going to be our answer. Correct. I could see that one being a little bit tricky, like if you're not paying attention to the inequalities or don't know the differences between the inequalities. So that could be a potential error there. So not too bad. All right, last hard one. Ooh, looks like we got some trig here. What is the measure of an angle in degrees if it subtends an arc of length 8 pi meters and a circle of radius 24 meters? Oh boy, subtends. That's not a word I would throw around much, but that's okay. Let's see, subtends an arc. So we have a circle. Let's go ahead and draw a circle here. Yeah, I drew that completely freehand, no problem. And we have a measure of an angle, so we're looking for some angle here. Subtends an arc length of 8 pi. Subtends, like I said, ask me to define subtends. I'm not extremely positive I could actually define it. What is it? But I think what they're trying to tell us is that the angle is going to, the arc length is 8 pi of that angle, and then a radius of 24. All right, interesting. So we want to find this central angle here. We want to figure out what that is. So central angle, or the length of the arc, is, well, first of all, we have a couple things happening here. We want the angle in degrees, but right now we're in radians. So right off the bat, what's jumping out to me is that I'm going to have to convert. Like I'm going to have to do 8 pi times 180 over pi, and that's going from radians to degrees. So the way I always remember this is if I want to go from radians to degrees, I want to knock out these pi's. So that's why I want to divide by pi, because I know some people always forget, like, is it multiplying by pi over 180 or 180 over pi? But for going from radians to degrees, we want it to knock out the pi, so we want to divide by pi in this case. So that's first thing, number one. Also, the length of the arc is equal to the angle times like the diameter or the radius or something like that. Like there's a couple different ways that you could formalize this. So I'm going to convert this, and then what I'm also going to do is I'm going to divide by 24 because the length of the arc and the radius are on different sides of the equation. So let's go with that. So I'm going to do 8 times 180, which is 1440. And like I said, the pi's knock out. And then I'm going to divide by 24 because the formula is something like the central angle times like the diameter. But we're given radius here, so I think it's usually like, I think it's just divide by 24. So it's 60 degrees. Just want to make sure I'm remembering. Yeah, because if I'm remembering this correctly, it's like times 2 pi r, but usually it's divide by 360, like looking at the whole. But since we multiply by 180, we're already cutting it in half, so I'm not going to divide by 2 times 24. I have not taught trig a whole lot, but I've taught geometry, and we've done this in geometry, so I'm thinking, I'm feeling really, really good about 60. That's our first selection there. Correct. Okay. That's a tough problem. That is definitely not something that, if you haven't taken a geometry class in a while or a trigonometry class in a while, that's not something that you might be able to get right away. I am kind of curious here. I just want to see the hints. Like, what are they saying with the hints? Like, so if we go through the hints, like my exposure to this is in these videos that I've been making. Arc length formula to find the central angle in radians. So yeah, they do what I was talking about. They kind of do it a little bit out of order. They convert last. I converted first. We get 60 degrees. So overall, that was pretty good. 6 for 6. The trig problem here, this geometry question, could be pretty difficult for some people, I think. I think that's not something that's super common. This inequality, potential error on whether it's the third or fourth option could cause some errors here. This one, not really sure if we were looking for an inequality or an equation, but I just did some ground and pound problem solving and got the answer, so we're okay there. This inequality, just solving an inequality, and then this percentage question, pretty good percentage question. I like that one. It's just, do you know percentages or not? And then this last one here, we had this statistics question, which if you're not really in the stats world a whole lot, that might be something that you might have to look over again. But overall, I like those problems. Good set of problems there.